Your life does change in direct correlation to the awareness that you apply to it. So your input does make a difference. These are at the cornerstone of the empowered approach to astrology, which I would really love for you to experience if you want to, through scheduling one of my astrological services at the link above. Use the discount code as also shown above. So change is a constant. But yet, it also seems quite often that we are in a state of constantly fearing change. Either that, or we go through the perspective of going, well, this is a change that I really, really want, and it's ultimately very exhilarating. But what if you could have it so that every single change that you work through was one that was more exhilarating rather than one that you're dreading or fearing? And what's at the root of that fear? Usually it's something very dark and scary and inside of us, interestingly enough, and hidden in the recesses of our like consciousness, in those areas that we don't really want to confront, and in those spaces where perhaps we're not the most honest with ourselves about what it is that we really want, or even with another person about what it is that we really want. And so we find ourselves in positions where a change is approaching us, and we're going, if only this change could be this way, it would be exhilarating rather than being ultimately very freaky and scary. Boo. Well, we can avoid the boo in more ways than just you disconnecting from my video by instead embracing the change. So, what would happen if instead of just keeping all of those thoughts within you, if instead you let them have a voice? Now, I know what you're thinking. You're going, if I let them have a voice, I'm going to get in a lot of trouble with those people that I have to voice those thoughts to. Tact and diplomacy, they go a long way. They go a long way. Yes, there are things that we don't like to hear. There are things that other people don't like to hear. But if you pay attention to the manner in which you convey those thoughts, which sometimes can be really hard if they're connected to something that you're really ticked off about or that you're fed up with, yeah, it can be hard to kind of keep a cool and a calm head in your expression of the situation. But if you make a little more effort, in conveying them in a tactful and diplomatic way. And at the same time, if you make a little more effort to hear the other person's point of view in precisely the same manner, quite often it's amazing what can actually be accomplished. We have a present transit of Jupiter in Bharani, Nakshatra, which is connected to the concept of change, which quite often involves a letting go process and accepting and embracing a transformation. Venus is in Purva Ashada, and Purva Ashada connects to the invigoration on one level of connecting to the authentic aspect of ourselves, the authentic causal nature of our own soul, when we're just tuned in and tapped into ourself, the ripple effect that that has in our existence, rather than being at odds with ourself and the ripple effect that that has in our existence. These particular areas of the sky are about so much more than that, but that's a matter for another day. So you're presently at a point where the change that you're going through can either be exhilarating or it can be invigorating. It can be both exhilarating and invigorating because those aren't different. It can be difficult or challenging or feel like, oh, I don't want to go through this, or it can be invigorating and it can be passionate. That's the key word, passionate. But if you're passionately holding on to something that instead perhaps it's time that you began to relinquish, then it can feel a little bit upsetting and sometimes it can feel disturbing. Ultimately, the choice is all within you, but you have to, on one level or another, confront those things that perhaps you're kind of sweeping under the rug, hiding in the corner of the room until it reaches a point where the elephant in the room kind of makes itself apparent because it's been built out of all that dust that you've been sweeping under the rug, and it becomes this huge dust elephant with scary pointy tusks. Right? Let's not go there, right? Sorry, just a little flight of the imagination. I can't help myself sometimes. But instead, it's time to not hide from the change that needs to happen. It's time to greet it head on. But it's going to involve a process of open discussion. If you are too attached to your own opinion, and if you take your own opinion and you just ultimately plow forward in that particular direction, there's nothing to stop you. There's nothing to stop you. You can do that if you really want. It might be time for you to go, you know what? My heart in this particular situation is saying enough is enough, and it's time to forge my own path under my own steam and take things in a direction that I really want things to go. More than fine for you to do that. Be at peace with your particular decision in that scenario. But if you want somebody else along for the journey, it's going to require a little bit of give and take. And it's likely over the course of the last couple of days, today is the 27th of January as I'm recording this, you've already been kind of connecting with a situation or with a certain someone, or perhaps a little bit of both, over a lot of these topics. This atmosphere between Jupiter and Venus is going to continue through until the 31st of January, while both of these planets are traversing through a similar 1/9 division of a sign. That's for all the astrology geeks that are out there that's making them more intensive in their application. We also have an ongoing aspect, a conjunction between Mars and Mercury in Uttada Ashada. Uttada Ashada, it can place us in a position of becoming ultimately very determined. And Mars-Mercury conjunctions can ultimately make us very opinionated. So when we take that opinion and we plow forward under our own steam, there's nothing that can stop us from doing that. But Uttada Ashada also asks us to take more of an open and a universal perspective to our approach. So maybe it's time to have that conversation with the other person, then plow off under your own steam anyway. But maybe it's also time to listen. Maybe it's also time to not keep those things beneath the surface that you've been kind of keeping, like, beneath the surface, but instead to let them come to the surface and express them. And if you're kind of keeping things hidden from yourself, ultimately it's time to do the same with that particular situation. Be honest with yourself, be authentic with yourself, be honest and authentic in the situations that you're dealing with. Apply tact and diplomacy to any conversations that you need to have before ultimately you make your own decision and allow space for anyone else to do the same. But the key word here with this particular Jupiter-Venus transit is to be at peace with your decision either way. I will add one more thing here. This particular period of time is very pivotal in terms of the astrological year, because towards the end of April, when we have a conjunction going on between Jupiter and Uranus, the decisions that you make now are going to have implications. So use that as something that is invigorating, not to fuel the fires of further fear and use awfully artsy alliteration in the process, but instead to understand that, hey, let's take this serious. Let's look at things, but let's also keep it light, keep it clear, and keep it open. That's going to do it for this look at Jupiter's interaction with Venus, with Jupiter in Bharani Nakshatra and Venus in Purva Ashada Nakshatra, taking place between now, the 27th of January, most intensively, and up until the 31st of January, 2024. If you're interested in scheduling in a consultation with me so that you can understand the energies at play within your astrological year through the empowered approach to astrology, please feel free to do so at the link above, where you'll also see a discount code that you can apply when you schedule. That's going to do it for this particular video. As always, thank you for watching. Please hit the like and subscribe button below if you'd like to be notified every time I do a new video. And as always, please do take the very best care of yourself. Bye now.